Well guys, look at those beautiful russet colours. Autumn has well and truly arrived now. Here my favourite bit of woodland. It's a little bit boggy underfoot and it's very good. The dog's gone off somewhere, I don't know where he is. He's doing his doggy thing I suppose, and it's wonderful. Not much fungi, I can't see any fungi at the moment, but that isn't the end of the world. Can always get some from work. Lovely day. Actually, it's quite mild. More on that later. As I say, very mild. And just got to proceed to a little spot, maybe my old usual spot. See what that's like there, and then a cup of tea, a review, and a story or two. I'm going to proceed, so I'll see you in a minute guys. Well guys, before I settle down, you may remember a couple of weeks back I was quite shocked at a bit of decimated woodland. It's near where I normally camp out. I mean, here you can see what's been left, and you've seen this all before. It's sad to see this. I mean look, their den is now just a pile of decaying woodland. It's of nothing, you know. It's quite sad to see, but whoops, daisy, there could be some good come out of it. It looks like a bit of oak there, and there's a bit of sweet chestnut there. It looks like I'll be able to split that out and get something to make an axe helve with. I've got a Kemp pattern axe indoors that desperately needs a handle, and hopefully I can get something out of that. So out of the destruction comes something. There's some more chestnut over there, maybe some spoons or something, and hopefully something out of this. You know, I'm going to just leave some of it to decay, but at the end of the day something may have come out of this. It's just a sad thing to see that things like these hollies here will not now grow up. They'll grow out and bushy if they're allowed to. This is a bit of pine plantation, but way over that way, past the pine, is old coppice, and I would love to work it. Well, the backpack I've used today guys is something that my nephew gave me. It's got a seat with it, so it's a fishing bag I think. You use it for fishing, but it's great for very lightweight hiking. Comes with its own seat. Holds enough to have a brew and something to eat. So I'm just having a brew today and reviewing something, another cooking system. So guys, next scene I suppose. Well guys, the subject of today's little review, or little look over, I've reviewed a lot of these before, and it's only after using them a few times you get an idea of how they operate. This is one of these, and it's the Swedish Army cook set. This one's made by Svea. Trangia make one which is almost exactly the same. In fact, they're almost out of the same pot. Now, what do you get for your money? Well, you get the cooking stand, and inside you got these flip up. Right, that's what your pot stands on. You get a burner and a fuel bottle. This burner, when fully laden, is capable of burning for 55 minutes in ideal conditions, or what I would term ideal conditions. Maybe for you it will burn a bit longer or a bit less. It depends on the conditions at the time. But 55 minutes is a pretty good burn time. And of course, the little meth bottle with the 3 crowns of the Swedish military upon it. It's great. It's integral, and for a day's tripping out it's very good. You get 2 pots basically. You get this one, which I suppose double as a sort of little frying pan, but to be quite honest, frying up outside is a bit naff. I've sort of get fed up with that. You know, it's like having constant fryouts for breakfast. But it has the ability to put a stick in there, more on that in a minute, and you can boil your water up, obviously. And then you've got the main cooking pot, which is this. It's wonderful. Again, 3 Swedish crowns to denote it's the military. There's no way of measuring the water, but then we tend to, when we cook it out and backwards, everything's done by eye and feel rather than a cooking pot, rather than a measuring jug. Very nice. It sits in here perfectly. Okay, this is on the hoof. Right, there we go. And of course this fits on the top. So in effect you could have a double boiler. You could be keeping something warm on there. Maybe forming a lid out of some aluminium, or you flip it up the other way and you've got an integral lid. Right, meth burner on that aside, the cooking pot also has a hook, so you can actually suspend it over an open fire, and so you can actually boil up a stew as well and keep it bubbling over for a good couple of hours. It works quite well over an open fire, and what I'm going to do now is light it up and get myself a brew on the go. The thing I like about this is, there we go. Oh, need some more mess in that. That's not quite enough to, I think one of these bottles just about fills that, so basically you get about 2 hours burn time. It's great for a little day trip out somewhere. There we go. Right. The thing I like about this over the transient is you can actually get that on the go and then just slide that over the top. Right, get myself some water. Burning away nicely, it's starting to bloom. My very old put this on. Water in, and lid on top. Right, there we go guys, it's ready to boil away. I just chuck my tea bag in there so I know what it is. I actually quite like this. I did poo-poo it for a long time, this system. I wasn't really sure about it, but I was in my local army surplus store getting a new tarp after burning a hole through one, and I bought it just on the off chance. It was cheap, it was £15, and thought I'd give it a go, and I've used it a couple of times and I say I'm quite impressed. It's not the most perfect system, but no system is ever perfect. Yeah, every system has its weaknesses and its plus points. I still prefer cooking over an open fire. For me that is the ideal, but obviously it's not always possible, and this is far more convenient. Yes, it's a great piece of camping equipment, and obviously one can see why it is so popular amongst bushcrafters and woodsmen, fishermen and whatever. So there you go. Yeah, it cooks porridge and rice and that up quite nicely. So there you go guys. It's the Svea, which is SVEA, which is this particular version, or Trangia maker version. And again, like the civilian counterpart, it is bomb-proof. In fact, I think the only way you're going to screw this up is to actually run it over. And integral, the only real drawback is it falls apart in your backpack if you're not careful. You need a little bungee cord to go around it all. So there you go guys, the Svea or Trangia military cook set. Well, my followers, my friendly people, welcome, and to all my new subscribers, welcome. It's been a bit of an odd week. It's been up and down weather-wise. One day cold, the next day quite mild. In fact, it is very mild today. I've just got a shirt on and no jacket and my sort of summery hat. I did attempt wearing my winter hat the other morning because I thought it might be cold. Boy was I wrong. I was sweating buckets by the time I got to work. By the way, I do work. I walk about 3.5 kilometres, 3 3/4 kilometres to work. So, and I do that 5 days a week, walking to work. Oh, I might as well pick my tea up. Keep putting it up and down. Yeah, it's not a lot been going on really. Just been chilling out. Projects going over my mind. I fancy making a fatigue type anorak made out of a blanket or whatever material I can get hold of. It looks a bit like the Swazi tear, and it's of a First Nations design, mostly used in Labrador. It'd be a good project. Quite long. I should take it down to just below the knee, and it'll be a pullover type job. I have something similar I've already made. It's just my sister's got it because she sewed it together for me on her machine, and I've yet to pick it up. And that was about just over a year or so ago. My group's coming on well, and we've had the first knife blog, which was a bit disappointing, but it was a sensible one, and it was all about the worst knife anybody's ever bought. The worst knife I ever bought really was a small office knife used in catering when I was chefing, and it basically gave out. I mean, though all these knives are full tane, it just rusted through the rivet and just collapsed. But that was a while back now, and I'll never buy them knives again. Incidentally, I tried when I was chefing. I used Sabatier or predominantly Victorinox knives, and you don't need a lot of kit. Again, in chefing circles, you get the same sort of thing as you do in woodsman or bushcrafty circles. You know, got to collect as many knives as you possibly can. A knife is a tool. I do have a few knives. You end up acquiring knives as well. My favoured knife actually is the Jack Law, made by Sandy Jack down in darkest Wiltshire. It's a good knife, well built, and if you've seen my past videos you know what I think about it. Off next week, and it's off on a North Woods skills course. If any of you have read Cache Lake Country, which is set in Canada, it's that sort of thing. I'll be paddle making, hopefully, Definitely putting a handle on an axe, and also making crook knife, which I'm really looking forward to. And if the weather is okay and all works well, we'll be canoeing as well. Better take my warm gear up because it's up in the Lake District, and get above Birmingham and everything suddenly drops off and gets cold. What else is there? Yeah, and on that point, I've bought some new winter gear. I bought a pair of sealskin gloves and some sealskins, and also a fur hat, fake fur. Trouble is, you know, it's one thing, you know, about the fur industry. You don't see many fake fur rabbits anymore. They've been hunted to extinction. Well, on that point, it's a really good hat, and it's very warm. It's the one I wore to work the other day. Just right for when you're sort of sitting around. Keeps your head warm. Yeah, this is like, for many people, particularly fair weather guys, this is starting to get to be closed season now. You know, no one goes out because they might get the shiny kit might get wet and damaged. But that's what it's for. It's for using. I've met one or two guys that have done courses, and they've acquired the axe, and all it does is just hang up on the man cave wall or living room wall, or finds itself into a bottom of a drawer somewhere and never sees the light of day again. I'm very much a person that likes to get out. As I said a while back, I haven't got out as much as I like this year, but there's been a lot of changes going on. The coming year, I hope to get out more, down to the coast a bit more, hop on the train, nip down to Hastings and Brighton, wander the beaches, try and find some remote areas, maybe do a bit of fishing. I bought some fishing gear. Woodland wise, I mean, it's dormant. The sap's dropping like anything, well, except for the pine, but they're different. The way the trees operate are slightly differently to deciduous trees. I say the sap's dropping, so this is the time for harvesting and for seeking out good wood and not so good wood. I desperately need to get back into carving. I did have a flurry of activity not long back of carving things, and then it's all suddenly dropped off, basically because I didn't have a chopping block at the time. I've now acquired a small chopping block, very useful, so I can actually use the axes. Interesting point. I watched a program this morning called the Form of Curry, which is basically one of the first cookbooks ever written. It's a 6-metre long scroll written at the time of Richard II, and the most important thing that someone had with them was a spoon, and they kept that with them all the time. And of course, without that you could not eat your food. I've since looked on the net as soon as the program finished, and you can get a copy of the Form of Curry. You can download it from something like Project Gutenberg, and there's some very, very good recipes in there which I might try. And some of the recipes are quite contemporary, you know, like pears in wine, there's a there's a goose stuffed with all manner of things. Bearing in mind that the stuff that they're stuffing the goose with, and some of the stuff they're using for cooking now, is very commonplace for us now, then was very rare and exotic. If you imagine using ginger, which came from the Far East, would have had to come by camel, by horse, by mule, by axe, overland, maybe a little bit around the Arabian Peninsula by sea, to land up on our doorstep. Very, 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 very precious. In fact, the nutmeg was so precious that it was worth more than its weight in gold. but I digress. I say winter's upon us, and I'm thinking of a few challenges to throw out, but I'm not sure yet how that's going to go, so I'm thinking about that. And in a minute, guys, a couple of stories. These stories will be from the Native American tradition. Well, the sun's coming up over the tree line over there. It's coming right into my face, and it's absolutely wonderful to think this is late autumn and it's not even chilly. There's no mist, there's no moistness about. It's great. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in a minute. Well, as you can see, the sun's in my face and it's beautiful. As I say, it's a nice day. So, a story. A little bit of background on this. I've been at the fireplace, or the birthplace of mankind, twice with Ken Littlefish, and he's now passed into spirit. He was an Anishinaabe Indian. We'd known him as the Ojibwe. Nice guy, really nice guy. Sweat lodges, when we think of a sweat lodge these days, we just think of the First Nations and Native Americans. Sweat lodges are endemic all over the world. A sauna is a type of sweat lodge, and particularly in Scandinavia, moreover in Finland, it has a deeper significance than just going in and sweating for a couple of hours. They were used in Southern Ireland, or in Ireland as a whole, for a long time, up until the sort of like resurgence in the late 1800s of Catholicism, and it was used to help cure arthritis amongst other things, or relieve the symptoms of arthritis. And if you delve into history, they're there. A good sweat is deeply spiritual, and it's something it's very hard to describe. Essentially, you're in there sweating, but a lot more goes on, a lot more spiritually as well as physically. But this is a Nez Perce story of the origins of the sweat lodge. I must point out that most of the sweat lodges, particularly the First Nations and Native Americans, the doors always face to the rising sun, or towards the east, and before you get, there's a line between the door of the fire, the door of the sweat and the fire, and that faces east, and in between there is an altar where you place your valuables. They can get really hot. It has been known for sort of like synthetic materials to melt. It is not a place for the faint-hearted, really. Anyway, I digress. This is a Nez Perce story, as I've already said, and it's called The Origins of the Sweat Lodge. Long ago, in the days of the animal people, Sweat Lodge was a man. He foresaw the coming of human beings, the real inhabitants of Earth, so one day he called all the animal people together to give each one a name and to tell him his duties. In the council, Sweat Lodge stood up and made a speech. "We have lived on Earth for a long time, but we shall not be in our present condition much longer. A different people are coming to live here. We must part from each other and go to different places. Each of you must decide whether you wish to belong to the animal beings that walk, fly or creep, or those that swim. You may now make your choice." The Sweat Lodge turned to Elk. "You will first come to this way, Elk. What do you wish to be?" "I wish to be what I am," said Elk. "Let us see you run or gallop," said Sweat Lodge. So Elk galloped off in a graceful manner and then returned. "You are all right. decided Sweat Lodge. You are an elk. Elk galloped off, and the rest saw no more of him. Sweat Lodge called Eagle to him and asked, "What do you wish to be, Eagle?" "I wish to be just what I am, an eagle." "Let us see you fly," replied Sweat Lodge. Eagle flew, rising higher and higher, and with hardly a ripple on his outstretched wings. Sweat Lodge called him back and said to him, "You are an eagle. You will be king over all the birds of the air. You will soar in the sky, and you will live in the crags and peaks of the highest mountains. The human beings will admire you." Happy with that decision, Eagle flew away. Everybody watched him until he disappeared into the sky. "I wish to be like Eagle," Blue Jay told Sweat Lodge. Wanting to give everyone a chance, Sweat Lodge said again, "Let us see you fly." Blue Jay flew into the air, trying to intimate the easy, graceful flight of Eagle. But he failed to keep himself balanced and was soon flapping his wings. Noticing his awkwardness, Sweat Lodge called to Blue Jay and said, "A jay is a jay. You will have to be contented as you are." When Bear came forward to Sweat Lodge, said to him, "You will be known among human beings as a very fierce animal. You will kill and eat people, and they will fear you." Bear went off into the woods and has since been known as a fierce animal. Then to all the walking creatures except Coyote, and all the flying creatures, to all the animals and birds, all the snakes, frogs and turtles and fish, Sweat Lodge gave names, and to the creatures scattered. After they had gone, Sweat Lodge called to Coyote and said, "You have been wise and cunning, a man to be feared you have been. This earth shall become like air, empty and void, yet your name shall last forever. The new human beings who are to come will hear your name and say, 'Yes, Coyote was great in his time.'" "Now what do you wish to be?" said Coyote. "Now what do you wish to be?" "I have long lived as Coyote," he replied. "I want to be noble like elk, eagle, or cougar." Sweat Lodge let him show what he could do. First Coyote tried his best to fly like Eagle, but he could only jump around this way and that way. He could not fly, the poor fellow. Then he tried to imitate Elk in his graceful gallop. For a short distance he succeeded, but soon he returned to his own gait. He ran a little way, stopped short and looked around. "You look exactly like yourself, Coyote," laughed Sweat Lodge. "You will be a coyote." Poor Coyote ran off howling to some unknown place. Before he got out of sight he stopped, turned his head and stood just like a coyote. Sweat Lodge, left alone, spoke to himself. "All are now gone, and the new people will be coming soon. They will arrive. They should find something that will give them strength and power. I will place myself on the ground for the use of human beings who are to come. Whoever will visit me now and then, I will give him power. He will become great in war and great in peace. He will have success in fishing and hunting. To all who come to me for protection, I will give strength and power." Sweat Lodge spoke with earnestness, and then he lay down on his hands and knees and waited for the first people. He has lain that way ever since, and has given power to all who have sought it from him. As I made mention, the Sweat Lodges are quite spiritual. They're not things to be taken lightly. In a sense, it's like crawling into the primordial womb, and you always enter and move to the left and go and circle round. Most sweats take about 2 hours. That's half an hour for each round of prayers for the 4 directions. And if you ever manage to take part in a sweat lodge ceremony, be thankful, because you are privileged. And on that, guys, I hope you enjoyed that little story. There are many where that's come from. I'm looking at a story on there's a couple of stories I've seen on the origin of the birch. They're wonderful stories, again from the Native American tradition, and I'm seeking out some stories from the European and Celtic and Saxon traditions. There are so many stories out there, and our roots lie within these folk tales. What we are and what we will ever be lie within these tales. They were there from the dawn of mankind. Cheer bye, guys. Have a peaceful week. This time next week I'll be in, hopefully, sunny Cumbria, up in the Lake District. Bye.